Activist Radio is on the air. You've tuned into the Mark Harrington Show. Sponsored by Created Equal.
Time is running out for our nation. I beg of you, you need to stand against the evil that's plaguing our nation.
If you don't like abortion, don't have one.
The only thing that can be said to be objective truth is that there is no objective truth.
Like, you kill a baby fetus, the same thing as killing any old inanimate object.
I would argue that we certainly are not all created equal.
Mark is training a new generation of leaders.
To take on the culture of death and win.
You young people, it's your movement now. It's not your parents anymore.
The blood that is shed cries out to God from the ground for justice.
And now, here's Mark.
Well, hello, friends. Thanks for tuning in. Mark Harrington here, your radio activist, coming to you on the Mark Harrington Show. And folks, if you want to find out more about the program, go to markharringtonshow.com. I'm broadcast over my podcasting platforms, all the popular ones, as well as streamed on my social media platforms as well. And you can find out more about us, again, by going to markharringtonshow.com. We have a lot of archived programs there. And the point of my program is really to talk about those unsung, I don't call them heroes because none of us are, unsung warriors of the pro-life movement. Stories from the present and from the past. And so consistent with that, today we're going to be talking to Joan and Chris Bell about their story, their history in the pro-life movement. And that involved a lot of Operation Rescue. We're going to talk about why, particularly why Joan was willing to spend serious time in jail, in prison, to defend unborn babies. Interesting enough, there was a rescue, and we'll talk about what that is, just last week on the 5th of March in Nashville, Tennessee. So this isn't just a thing of the past, folks. There are people currently who are risking arrest to defend unborn babies, to stand in the gap, to interpose, if you will, between the oppressor and the oppressed, to sacrifice their lives, if necessary, for the unborn. And that's why we want to talk to Joan and Chris today. So, Joan and Chris, thanks for being on the program today.
It's an honor. Thank you so much, Mark.
Yes, thanks, Mark.
I appreciate it. Well, we've known each other for years, and we run into each other here and there, and just saw you folks up in Chicago for the funeral of our champion Joe Scheidler, and it was a very solemn event, but a very great event to celebrate the life of and I can't call Joe Scheidler a hero. I think he was many years, 30 years in the work. So I don't like to use that word very often because I don't think any of us are heroes when it comes to this, because the babies are still dying. But
we agree.
Joe Scheidler was one of the kind. So it was good seeing you guys up there. So here's what I'd like to do. I want to take some time talking about your story, Joan, and bring that kind of up to speed to where we are today when it comes to rescues. So if you would, take us a little bit back into memory lane. When you first decided that you wanted to rescue, and if you would explain what that meant.
Well, when I was 24 years old, when abortion was pseudo-legalized, you cannot really truly legalize murder. So it was a false legalization. I felt like I was transported to Nazi Germany because I had read a lot about the Nazi Holocaust against the Jews and Christians when I was a teenager and all. So I was just stunned. I was shocked that this country, that was such a godly country, I thought, could do such a thing. And immediately I thought I'll be spending the rest of my life in jail because I knew I could not face God when I died if I didn't do everything I could to try to save his little children to the best of my ability. And I always felt the only way you can really do that is to, as you were saying earlier, interpose yourself. So you go directly and try to block the killing. I thought at that time it would be to sneak into an abortion mill, get in at night, maybe through a window, and disarm the murder weapons. And actually, I went to Chicago in '73 to try to do that, but I just couldn't figure out. I wasn't a very smart kid, young person. I didn't figure out how to do that, but I felt very bad. And then I did find out a movement was growing. So I started doing sidewalk counseling and all the rest, but my heart was always broken. We have to.
So just to set the stage, what year was it? So was it the
1973? The year.
So it was the handing down of Roe v. Wade that brought
Absolutely.
you made you aware of this?
Well, I was naive. I didn't know anybody was militating for legalizing the murder of children. I was so shocked when that horrific decision, murderous decision was made, and then I didn't hear. I thought, where's everybody who's taken to the streets? All the bishops, the priests, all the Christians, all the Jews, everybody. Why aren't we taken to the streets? People of goodwill. Why aren't we saying no way? There was a silence, and that shocked me and broke my heart. And that's why I felt, well, I just have to do what I have to do. And
so what motivated you to think about doing that first? That is to go into the facilities themselves and disarm the murder weapons, i.e. the suction equipment or whatever equipment they were using. Why was it that? Why wasn't it like, lobby Congress or something?
Because babies started dying that day. I found out later that they had already orchestrated, had places ready to open immediately, and the killing started immediately. I knew babies were dying right then and there. And
what state were you in, Joan? What state were you in?
Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
A little farming community in Lewisburg, right outside Nashville.
So you're 24 years old, and you begin to go into these places. Take us from there. I mean, did you go in? Did you ever get in at night, or you went during the day, or what? And what did you do?
I knew if you went to go during the day, one person. I didn't think there's any way you could get in. So I thought about trying to do it at night, but because I couldn't do it. In fact, I got picked up by the police in Chicago, and they questioned me, and all I did is tell them I had been at a convent because I worked with an extern nun in St. Louis when my sister was in the Carmelites. So that's all I told them, because that was my last address. And they kept calling me the runaway nun. And so they held me for a few days and then let me go. They didn't know what I was up to. They just knew I pretended I was homeless because I wasn't going to tell anybody. I didn't want my family to be involved. I was never going to give my real name. When I got arrested, I was just going to be like a baby doe type thing.
Were you married at the time?
No, I was single.
You hadn't met Chris yet?
I hadn't met Chris. I was 43 when we got married. So I met him when I was.
So 24 years old, beginning to rescue. What did it look like back then?
Well, shortly after that, then I did begin to hear it. I know, like, I'm being a Catholic. In the church, they started handing out literature. They started trying to organize politically. So I got involved in all that, giving talks in churches, or going to killing centers and praying and sidewalk counseling. All of that started. But when I heard about rescue, the first time I heard about rescue was in the late 70s, 78. And I finally said, this is the way to do it. This is the best way. Go directly to where the babies are dying. Get in, be totally nonviolent. I always believed in total nonviolence. I was a pacifist, even though I accept church teaching that you can defend yourself and others, but I never wanted to ever kill anyone or hurt anyone. So I got involved in the rescue movement as soon as.
So Operation Rescue, if you would explain that, was that with was Randall Terry doing it at the time, or were there others?
He didn't start until I think it was 88 or 87.
88.
Yeah,
88. Okay. It was 88. So I got involved with a St. Louis group and John Cameron O'Keefe in Maryland, and we brought it to Delaware. We brought it to Pennsylvania.
So explain exactly what that would look like. What was a rescue?
Well, they were called sit-ins at that time. It was Jack O'Brien that coined it as saying, no, we're not just doing a sit-in. We are trying to rescue real little baby boys and girls it's a rescue. And he coined that around, I think it was maybe 84, 83, something like that.
Yeah, which is taken from Proverbs 24, of course.
Yes,
So we rescue those being led away to death. Yes.
Right. So basically, we would get into the building. In the early days, you'd hide in maybe in the bathroom of a killing center. And then at the right time, if any girls went to the back to the killing rooms, you would block the doors to the killing rooms. You pray, you hand out literature, tell the girls where they could get help, and talk to the moms and dads. Just plead with them, and plead with your abortion personnel to please cease the killing. And we show pictures of the babies. The trash can, the Canadian Teaching Hospital had all the little babies stuffed into the black garbage bags, and the other pictures of aborted babies. Because it's so shocking that people claim they don't know these are babies and that they're true human beings. In fact, we had, Wilkie's book.
Jack Wilkie's book.
Jack Wilkie's book, his incredible book, Handbook on Abortion, had so much information about how even in the first trimester at 8 weeks, you can educate the baby in the womb to show they see a thinking human being. Like they do a little buzzer and then prick the baby, buzz and prick, and then buzz without pricking, and the baby would recoil in anticipation of the prick. This was early on in the 70s. So for people to say this day and age, they don't know it's a true baby, a sentient human being, is an insanity, a denial.
Right. Back then, they might have been able to claim that. I'm talking to Joan and Chris Bell, and you can find out more by to find out more about their work. You can go to goodcounselhomes.org. That's goodcounselhomes.org. Joan Andrews Bell has been arrested over 100 times. We want to talk about that in the course of about 2 decades. We're going through her story today, and spent some time in prison, in fact, up to 2 years. We want to talk about that, blocking entrances to abortion centers, and really pricked the conscience of America, leading to the Operation Rescue movement in the 1980s and 90s. Joan, you're also the subject of some books. You Reject Them, You Reject Me, The Prison Letters of Joan Andrews Bell. That would be a good one for people to pick up. Or I Will Never Forget You, The Rescue Movement in the Life of Joan Andrews. Joan, I want to pull back a little bit, and just because people are thinking, well, okay, weren't you breaking the law by going in and doing this? What made it okay, I guess, for you to say, I'm going to go in and risk arrest? Because I assume you were arrested when you went in and do these things.
Yes.
What was it that what was it that convinced you that it was morally right, it was okay ethically to go in and break the law to rescue the babies inside the facility? Why couldn't you just stand outside on the sidewalk?
Yeah. Well, standing outside is good. It's a good and beautiful thing, and you do affect people. But when children are dying, you have to do more. You have to do, if you put in your mind, if they were killing 5-year-olds, what would you do?
Exactly.
The babies were crying out. John Ryan said it most beautifully, I think. He said, if I were going to be brought in to be killed, I'd be happy someone was there saying, please don't kill him. We will help you. We will take him in. We'll adopt him. We'll take care of him. You don't have to kill him. But I still would want someone to do more. My heart would be breaking. I'd be scared to death. My heart would be beating. Right. And then I would want someone to say, no, you cannot do it, and block my killing, and just say no, absolutely no.
So when did you meet Chris then? So you're beginning to do these rescues. When did you meet your husband?
We met in 1988. Shortly before I got out of prison. He brought me the Blessed Sacrament when I was in prison. He was a Eucharistic minister. And my sister told him that what I wanted most while I was in prison was to receive our Lord, and which I rarely got to do in prison because I was in solitary confinement most of the time.
So let's talk about that experience. You began to do these rescues regularly, I assume, about 1978.
Yes.
When did you first go to prison or jail?
How
long were you in?
The first time was only for a few weeks and a few days in the beginning. I first got arrested in St. Louis, and by the time I met Chris, I had already, I had just gotten out of jail after a 2.5-year sentence. I mean, it was a 5-year sentence, but halfway through, a lot of people were writing the governor. And because I did something in jail that was kind of new, I guess, through the rescue movement, was I would not cooperate. They had to drag me through the whole system. And I did that because it dawned on me very strongly that we could not have legalized murder. And the reason it's not breaking the law, no government can legally legalize the murder of people. Like in Nazi Germany, it was legal, so-called legal, to murder the Jews. And they were decreed legally to be enemies of the state. So if you helped a Jew escape or hit a Jew, you were committing not only breaking the law, but you were committing treason. And yet good Christians and good people of conscience still rescued Jews and broke the so-called law, because it's never legal to murder an innocent person.
Right. And so you were in, so you had a 5-year sentence, but you you served 2.5 years. Is that right?
Yes. And
you were not married at the time.
No, right? I just turned 40 when I was in jail. So I was praying that God would send me a holy husband so we could have wanted children so badly.
Well, he did that. All right.
He did.
He certainly did that. So let's talk about that, Chris, if you would. I know, and I want to get back to what's currently happening with Red Rose Rescues and rescuing in Nashville. But after meeting Joan and knowing what she had been up to, you must have been wondering, am I ever going to see my wife?
Well, when I first met her,
you married her anyway.
Yeah. When I first met her, I thought, she must be a saint, because who else would stay in prison and so joyful. She was so happy, and she wasn't concerned with her own well-being, even though when I saw her, she was able to have a visit, but most of her prison time in Florida, she was not. And you can only imagine, right, how difficult that is. So what did she do? She prayed. She said she never had a better prayer life than when she was in solitary confinement. And her prayer, obviously was answered. She wanted to get married. So we got married. And
how long was she in solitary confinement? Because I want people to really understand the magnitude of this. Today, we think about that like, that would be like unbearable.
Well, Mark, we don't want to frighten everybody, away. At least when you get into Red Rose Rescue and stuff, today, thankfully, right now, most people are not, if you do something this dramatic, this direct to help the children, you won't be thrown into solitary. But Joan literally was in solitary confinement for 2 years. Technically, you're only allowed to be there 30 days. So they would drag her out on the 29th day. They say, you're going to cooperate now. And she would say, no, I'm not going to participate in you unlawfully jailing me. And they bring her back. And then after a while, they just kept her there and just would ask her, do you want to come out? And she'd say, no. It's not that she didn't want to come out, but she wasn't willing to participate in what they were doing to her. Remember, when we talk about the law, right now, especially, we Christians have to recognize we are talking about positive law. Positive law meaning man's law, meaning a lot of the law that's on the books is against God. It's against godly ways. It's against marriage. It's against family. It's against life. So those laws, as Thomas Aquinas said, as many good Christians said throughout the centuries, man cannot make an unjust law if he's following God's ways. And if he does, it's not legitimate. And if we don't start to stand, we are standing up. There are good people. There must be at least 10 good people in the United States, because otherwise we're no better than Sodom and Gomorrah. And what we're doing now on scales is way off the chart. Sodom and Gomorrah could not have dreamed of such evil, but we are doing it, and it's all around us, in the killing of the innocent and the destruction of the family. This, I presume your listeners know this. And now what are we going to do about it? Well, we can't just go along with our lives.
Right. I'm talking to Joan and Chris Bell. You can find out more about their ministry by going to goodcounselhomes.org, goodcounselhomes.org. This is such a short time together, Chris and Joan, that we're going to have to move on. But if you would, Chris, tell us what you're doing with Good Counsel Homes. I mean, first of all, after she was done with her 2.5-year sentence, you married, right?
Well, we didn't marry right away, but it was a few years later. Yes, we did.
Okay. And then when did you found Good Counsel Homes, and what is it?
So Good Counsel began before I met Joan in 1985. We opened up actually on March 10th in 1985 to help homeless, pregnant, and parenting mothers and babies. And now we have 4 homes in New York, New Jersey. We have a national helpline. Any pregnant woman, regardless of her immigration status, regardless of her mental health, addiction issues, or age or location, if she is able to come to our home, we will take her in. And that's the mission, right? It's to help.
What a great work. What a great work. So, Joan, let's fast forward to current modern day right now, Red Rose Rescue. You have actually been doing those. You've been participating in those as well currently. Yes. Those started several years ago. If you would, Mr. Producer, put up the website for Red Rose Rescue. And if you would, Joan, tell us what that is. It's a little different, but it's similar.
It's great.
Right?
Yeah, it is definitely rescue. Dr. Monica Megalarino Miller and my husband Chris spoke about 4 years ago, and said we need to have rescue. Children have to be directly rescued. It's imperative. In fact, during the rescue movement, where thousands of people were being arrested in the 80s and 90s, we have a friend, Joan Appleton. She was she led an abortion mill. She was a director of an abortion mill, but she had a conversion. But she said at that time, when the rescue movement was, where thousands of people were getting arrested, that the abortion people, the abortion movement thought it was ended. They said it's going to end. It's going to, the abortion industry is going to collapse because of rescue. That's how powerful rescue was. And then I don't know if it was the law, the FACE law that came down that stopped it, where everyone just stopped rescuing, or maybe some of the leaders got married, started having kids. I don't know what it was, but it's heartbreaking that it didn't go on. So Monica understood, and, many of us from the former rescue.
We've got about a minute left, just so you know, Joan. So.
Yeah, that we had to continue to rescue. But people don't non-cooperate in jail, so you don't do the long jail sentences. But it's a great movement. We have Father Fidelis involved, who's one of the leaders. It's a tremendous movement.
And it's very simple. You walk into the abortion mill with a rose, you hand to the mother, and you ask her to get help.
And the difference is you're not, just so you know, folks, you're not blocking access to the door. You're not destroying equipment. You are actually in there in solidarity with the women to hand out a rose to counsel inside the abortion center itself, in the waiting room, so to speak, in the hopes that you can turn women away, right? And then if it leads to arrest, it leads to arrest. But otherwise, that's not the point.
Yeah. The reason it would only lead to arrest is that once, even if they take the mothers away, put her in a back room or something, you don't leave because you're in solidarity with the little baby. As long as that baby's life is in danger, you refuse to leave, and you get arrested because you refuse to leave.
Right.
You get dragged
down. So, folks, if you want to find out more, go to redroserescue.com. I think it is redroserescue.com. Yes, if you want to find out more about this, the current movement, the rescue movement, if you will, that's been revitalized by Monica Miller, my good friend. You can find out more, and you can find out more about the work of Good Counsel Homes by going to goodcounselhomes.org. And folks, we're going to make this available to you today. This is Monica's book, Monica Miller's book, Abandoned: The Untold Story of the Abortion Wars. If you want to get this book, you can give us a gift of $50. We'll send it to you. Just go to markharringtonshow.com, click on the donate link, give $50. We'll send you this book. To me, this is one of the best, if not the best, books on abortion. It's not really an apologetics book per se, but it's a story of the abortion wars in the early days, the days when Joan Andrews Bell was out doing what we've been talking about today, and that is some of the Operation Rescue tactics, among other things. very inspiring. I mean, believe me, when I read this, it made me want to go out and start rescuing right away. But there's a lot of things that can be continued to do that are outlined in her book. So you can get this by going to markharringtonshow.com and just click on the donate link and give $50 and we'll send it to you. Joan and Chris, thanks for being on the program. You are an inspiration to everybody in our movement. We thank you for your sacrifice, even in the past and in the current. We appreciate you being on the program today. You've been listening to the Mark Harrington Show. We'll see you next time. God bless you. God bless America. And remember, America, to bless God.
You've been listening to Mark Harrington, your radio activist. For more information on how to become a witness against the evil plaguing America, call Created Equal at 614-269-7808. That's 614-269-7808. Or go online to createdequal.net. Createdequal.net. Be sure to tune to the Mark Harrington Show next time for your marching orders in the culture war.